I'm going to make a claim just to be outrageous that many of the practices in schools, some that you may visit, are actually going to reduce the student's ability later on to do high-level intellectual work. Let me just tantalize you with something that you can ask me about later. A study that was done decades ago in a large public school system, and it was designed in such a fashion that 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in the experimental group were not allowed to learn mathematics. The reason that this experiment was set up is because the superintendent of the school system was alarmed that all of the kids were spending so much time doing arithmetic, filling out worksheets, getting tested, having red checks and red X's, and getting grades on how well they memorized certain algorithms. He was worried that doing all of that was taking time away in the school day from other more important activities, making up fantastic stories and reading a lot and developing relationships with each other. In this experiment, he actually abolished the teaching of math in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. In the other group in his school system, they continued with the same curriculum that included a great deal of mathematics or arithmetic in the school day in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades. The outcome of that study was at the end of 5th grade, all of the students merged back together into the same curriculum where they all went into the same 6th grade math program. The students who had been drilled repetitively, done worksheets several hours a day, did not do as well in 6th grade math as the students who had no mathematics at all in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So just think about what that might mean in terms of the consequences of rote memorization and what that does in the brain. Furthermore, in that experiment, the kids who had no mathematics formally had been invited in the curriculum to do things like estimate the height of a tree, or just do the kinds of things that come up in the natural course of a day's experience that have embedded in them mathematical concepts but are not actually memorizing algorithms or solving arithmetic problems. The kids in the experimental group who had no math training at all also, at a rate of about 8 to 1, were able to solve complex mathematical word problems that they'd never been presented with before. 8 times more able to do that than the students who'd been in intense math programs in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So I give you that as a way of putting an exclamation mark on the idea that from a biological point of view, arguably the worst thing that you can do is to put kids in a situation where they're doing repetitive, rote, skill-based work so that they can perform better on the next test. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that in current educational policy, we're beginning to see an outcome that could be predicted by the people who know a lot about brain science and human development, which is the kids who are being beaten daily emotionally in order to improve their scores on, for example, 4th grade tests, for mysterious reasons are actually doing worse on 8th grade tests. And I don't think that that's an accident. I think it is a cause and effect relationship, that the practices that improve test scores in young kids are going to inevitably make them less able to do more complex work later on. So just something for you to think about. The other dimension that I'd like you to think about in terms of what it means to be well educated is from the psychological and emotional point of view. And again, all of you potential students are past this point, and I hope you navigated the early years of education without too much stress. But I'm going to assert that the single greatest problem in education in independent schools and in many supposedly successful schools in affluent suburbs is the increasing pressure to make students do too much too soon. This idea that we're pressing academic work down into preschool and kindergarten is something that is rejected by everybody who knows about child development, and yet it is our public policy in the country. That approach to education, stressful, intense, pushing kids to achieve at an early age, has 2 possible consequences. One of them is that it will produce a group of losers who, for developmental reasons, are not able to perform at that level when they're 4, 5, 6, or 7 years old. So those kids who are exposed to this pressure for early achievement and are not developmentally ready to do it are going to develop a sense of themselves as incapable students. that may carry with them throughout their education, or if they're lucky enough and have a supportive enough family that says it doesn't really matter, you'll be fine later, they may come out of it. Again, I'm trying to compress this into a quick time, so I won't go through the audience participation part of this. But expecting all 7-year-olds, for example, to be able to read in the same way is every bit as abusive and crazy as expecting all 1-year-olds to get up on their birthday and run. It just doesn't make sense. So we have a school system that is designed to expect kids to do that. If they can't, then they're deemed failures. It's a problem. There are people